I'd like to thank Hilton Parada for today's contingency. Agamemno contingency, smoking. Within us all is someone we all keep buried away from the eyes of the public. A version of ourselves we wish we could be, but fear the consequences of, or lack the ability to achieve it. I myself can relate to this, and unfortunately I also know the consequences of letting that part of me out. Long story short, it wasn't pretty. Fortunately for Stanley Ipkiss, things went a bit better, though with a few bumps along the way. Stanley himself is just a mild-mannered man, no real strengths to notice. But that changed when he came across a mask with incredible power. When worn, the mask would latch onto his head, merging with him in a sort of metamorphoses. The result being a completely different personality, or rather, Stanley's true self coming out to the surface. This alter ego, which he calls the mask, is much more than a zany character, as the mask also grants Stanley incredible powers. Limited only to his imagination, the mask is by all intents and purposes a cartoon character come to life. And even if that didn't make this contingency difficult enough, he is also a gag character with virtually no limitations. He's been riddled with bullet holes while never actually sustaining lethal injuries, fallen several stories onto hard asphalt and flattened on impact, only to peel himself off the ground. Can morph his body in any way he desires, one time screaming his skull out of his head. He can also alter reality however he sees fit, even manipulate how others act around him. An example being the time he turned a balloon Tommy gun into a real Tommy gun, or got an entire police force to dance and sing along to an admittedly catchy dance number. Bottom line is, if he wants to do something, there isn't much anyone else could do to stop him, which is why I consider myself fortunate that this version of the mask was specified. Had this been the original comic book version, well, I'd rather not think about that. If I had to make a comparison, this version of the mask would have a personality similar to Plastic Man. His actions may be erratic and break a few laws, but I wouldn't call him a bad person. Countering someone like this is difficult, something I'm probably going to say about any character I tackle who has access to the Toon Force. But he does have one glaring weakness that I believe I can exploit. The mask's powers only manifest at night. During the day it becomes inactive, and the wearer returns to their original form. I am unsure if it's natural sunlight alone, or the actual moment the area he's in becomes day. But I have prepared for both. By using various satellites I already have in space, I can reflect sunlight to any specific point I desire. Due to the distance, I don't think he'd have time to counter this before it's too late. And if that doesn't work, I can use the Watchtower's teleportation system to move him to daylight. If all else fails, I could try appealing to the man behind the mask. As I've stated, Stanley is not a bad person, and if he somehow started to get out of hand while wearing the mask, I think it's possible to reason with him to remove it himself. One thing is for sure, the moment I get my hands on this mask, I'm going to ensure no one ever finds it again. If you also have a character you wish for me to cover, or just want to support this channel, I'll have a link to my Ko-fi page. There will also be a Google Doc with the list of characters who have ever been done or already commissioned by others.